This is ACC men's basketball official Roger Ayers. Thanks for listening to the Crown Refs podcast episode 100 tonight. Serve the game.
Thanks for listening to the audio experience for basketball officials. This is the 100th episode of the Crown Refs podcast, and it's only right that we bring in a heavy hitter for this one. So my next guest is Mr. Roger Ayers, who is a Final Four official from Roanoke, Virginia. This episode is a communications masterclass for referees. There's over 90 minutes of insight and tips from one of the best college officials in America. I think this is going to help a lot of people get over that communication hurdle that continues to be a struggle for so many of us, including myself. So sit back, listen to episode 100. We hope to bring you at least 100 more in the future. Enjoy the episode. So Roger, I'm eager to speak with you today because we're always trying to learn how to become a better communicator. Let's face it, we have a rule in a case book and a mechanics manual that we study the science of. We study the science of the craft, and how each of us applies it, I think, is the actual art. And a major part of that art is being able to communicate effectively to all the game's participants, to communicate what happened in the game right away, without hesitation. So I'm really looking forward to breaking down the communication aspect with you into 3 sections. So we can touch on responding to coaches, player management, and improving crew dynamics. So starting with coaches, from your experience, what has been some of the most beneficial tactics that have worked for you when dealing with coaches?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Paul. Big fan of Crown Refs, and you guys do it the right way, and more excited on my end probably than you are to get to do this. So hopefully it helps out, and we can help some refs out there. One of the things that I've tried to do early on in my career was I realized early on at the college basketball level, it is a coach's game. I think everybody's probably heard that. At the NBA level, they say, well, it's a player's game. I'm not sure. Those are the best refs in the world. But at the college level, the veteran college coaches, they stay around a long time. Like, just for example, in the ACC, the 𝘕𝗶𝘂𝘁𝘳 and 𝘺𝗶𝘃𝘁, the Roy Williams, they've been around forever. They're not going anywhere. So every 2 to 3, 4 years, a whole other group of players are coming in. So I learned right away, if I'm going to have a long-term career in this league or other leagues in the country, I've got to learn to get along with that head coach over there. Then I had to learn, what are some tricks? What are some things that I can use to put in my toolbox that will help me communicate with those guys? Because the first time you go to any camp at any level, the guys, the observers, the staff, they'll get over to the side and tell you, guys, you got to communicate. You got to be able to talk to coaches. Well, as a younger ref, I didn't know what that meant. Like, talking to a high school coach or an AAU coach is not like talking to 𝘺𝘱𝘃𝘁. Right. The verbiage you used back then, it doesn't work anymore. So I obviously had to get a hold of some veterans and use some tricks they use. But some of the things I used when I was a newer ref, it's the easiest trick, and every ref at every level can do this. I would read coaches' bios, like before the game, especially if I didn't know them, if I'd never had them before, or I would read a bio, and for example, it would say something like, I'll throw an example out. The first time I ever had Scott Drew at Baylor, I'd never had Scott Drew before. This is 10, 12 years ago or whatever, but I read his bio, and one of the things it said was, his family, his coach, and all, but his biggest hobby was bass fishing. Well, with this kind of hair gel I use, I don't do any bass fishing. I don't put worms on a hook. But it clicked with me. I said, okay, he loves bass fishing. So early in the game, a timeout or whatever in the game, I said, hey, coach, love coming to Baylor, man. I actually was checking out some of the places you could do some fishing around here, and he just snapped. He went, you fish? I said, oh, man, back in Virginia, I love fishing. Love bass fishing. So it kind of took him away from the game just a little bit, just that little tidbit. Yeah. Now, did it help me with him on some tough calls? Maybe, maybe not. But at least I'd taken the time the day before to get a little history on him. Same thing I would do with the other coach, just trying to pick out little things, especially if you go into this upcoming season and there's a new assistant coach hired on Coach X's staff. But what I would do is go to that school's website, read his bio. Where is he from? Where did he come from? What are some hobbies? What are some things he likes? So in warm-ups, I can get to him, say, hey, coach, welcome to this league. We're glad to have you. I know you're a big fan of U2 music, or you're a big fan of whatever. You know, whatever I can do to kind of make him feel comfortable. Start a relationship before the game even starts.
Yeah.
These are all little things I do. The next tidbit I use is when I go to shake a coach's hand. Like most of us go to shake a coach's hand. Hey, coach, good to see you, blah, 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 and go to the next guy. But if it's a coach you've never had before, and he's a so-called big-time coach, or whether it's a high school big-time coach and you're a little nervous, Paul, one of the tips I use is when I go to shake someone's hand, I never say, I'm Roger Ayers, nice to meet you, you know, I'll work hard for you. Those are all givens. How I start my relationship with that coach is, Coach, great to see you again. Always a pleasure working your games. Always glad to have you, Coach. Good luck tonight. Because I'm trying to plant a seed in warm-ups. He doesn't know who I am. But in his mind, coaches are crazy. Coaches are anal. And if in his mind he thinks, well, I don't recognize this slick-haired guy. I must have had him, though, because he said good to see me again. He must have not have screwed up too bad. I must have not lost. What am I doing in the handshake line? Planting a seed. Trying to start before we'd even thrown the ball up to kind of put him in a place, well, you know, maybe I do know this ref. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I have had him before. Maybe I'll give him a chance. Because a lot of times coaches stare across the court before the game and go, okay, I know Paul, I know this guy, but I don't know this young guy over here. I'm going to go at him. But if you can kind of plant that seed early, that you've had him before or somewhere along the way, I think that really helps. The second part I do is early in the game, first media timeout, I try to position myself outside that coach's huddle that I've never had before, that I'm still trying to plant some seeds with. If we've screwed up in the first 4 minutes, I'm probably already in trouble. Some of the tips I use is when they come out of that first huddle, I try to start some communication right to the coach. Are we good? Everything okay out here? Anything you want to talk to me about? Anything you want me to look for? Because probably the first 4 to 5 minutes of the game, he's just filling out his team and what's going on. He hasn't really got into the officiating yet. Well, if I can start getting a few brownie points right then, well, at least this guy will talk to me. At least this ref come over and said something. So when there is a tough play, maybe in his knee-jerk reaction, he doesn't come at me so hard. He may still come at me, but at least he can say, well, at least the ref's been talking to me. I'm sure people that are going to see this podcast have seen games on TV, and yourself and myself included. I watch games, and there'll be the biggest train wreck in America under the basket. That coach will hop up off the bench, start down the baseline, and see who's officiating the play. More times than not, if he has a relationship with that guy, if he trusts that official, if he has communication with that ref, more times than not, the coach is like, okay, guys, get back on defense. Show your hands. Just the opposite. Yeah. If he's had no relationship with that guy, doesn't know you, you've been a jerk. From the time he shook his hand, you were ice cold, you blew him off, he had questions early, you ignored him, you're in for a long night. Anything you can do to reel that coach in, because he's already uptight about the game. He's dealing with 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. He's dealing with alumni. He's dealing with ADs, media, presidents. And then here come three hot shots and me with the slick back hair. I do everything I can to calm him down. So you know, those are some of the tips I use. And then think back this season, Paul, if you've seen any of my games, a player gets hurt, the coach comes out on the floor, and he goes to take the player for court. One of the things most officials do is, okay, coach, I got to have a sub in 20 seconds. Right. Let's go. Let's play. I'm just the opposite. This is the verbiage I use. Coach, take all the time you need. You know, it's okay. They're not going to take an abundant amount of time, but coach, whatever you need, take your time. You need anything? Can I get you? Do you need a team doctor for you visiting the locker room? Whatever I can do. Look, I can do to just plant seeds in the back of that mind of his as I use it. So there's some things I used to start. That's just to start the game. We haven't even really got going in the game yet, and I've already started some communication with it. But I'll start to reading bios, get as much information as you can about that coach. So when you go to camp and they say you got to learn how to talk to coaches, we'll talk coaches like, talk what coaches like, you know. And those are some of the things that I've used, and they've certainly helped me.
I like how you flipped that approach, or you reversed it. You know, that critical time when a coach comes out, he sees his player injured, and I'm guilty of it too. What's the first thing we do? We're handling our business. Coach, I need a sub. But to show that empathy in that moment, right? He's not going to take an hour, right? You're just kind of giving him, you're making it a little bit more comfortable for him. So I never thought of it like that. I like how you're looking in bios, because if you mentioned bass fishing to the Baylor coach, that you could have won him over forever now. just because you did that 5 minutes
Yeah.
of research. Yeah. One thing I don't do enough, and I want to do it because you're inspiring me to. So start early in the game, first time out. I usually don't initiate. So you're saying go out and initiate, kind of take the temperature. How's everything going, Coach? Do you have any questions?
And the reason I say that, Paul, is because early in the game, the temperature of that game is still pretty normal. You don't have the flu. You don't have 110-degree temperature in a game. It's still relatively calm. If you wait until the second black charge call, that's not the time you want to go and talk to a coach and try to start a relationship. Right. I try to start in the handshake when I shake their hands, and then the first time out. The game's going relatively smooth. They don't even know you're out there yet. Well, I'm trying to plant those seeds now as coach. As the game goes on and that temperature does rise, I'm the one guy who you can talk to, because a lot of coaches you talk to, they'll go, well, I can't talk to that guy. He's a jerk. You know, no communication. He won't talk to me. If what I've been told by supervisors, most coaches who call and complain after games, a lot of times it's not about what Roger or Paul called during the game, a missed travel or a block charge. It's, do you know what your ref said to me? Or do you know, I tried to talk to your ref all night. He ignored me, or he big-timed me. Because they get in their head is like, this ref has an ego. Well, if you calm that, if you squash that early in the first media timeout, the other little trick I use, a player goes in for a shot, he falls down, he gets hurt. A lot of officials who administer free throws, the lead official, before he's bounced the ball, okay, guys, 2 shots, let's go. Another little trick I use. Walk up to that free throw shooter. Wipe the ball off with your hand. Wipe it on, you know, take your time. Tell me when you're ready. And I'm doing that for the player, but I'm also doing it for one other person in that arena. I want that head coach to see this ref's human. Yeah. You know, my guy just got banged in the head. He's staying in the game, but instead of this ref just bouncing the ball, saying, we got to play, he's in a hurry to catch a flight, I'm just the opposite. Take all the time you need. I'll have a ball boy come out, wipe this wet spot up on the floor just to buy him some time. Coaches get it. They know what I'm doing. You have to be aware of what's going on in the game, and these are all little tips that you can use to build that relationship with coach over time, over years. And the next time they see you, they'll go, you know what? I like this guy right here. They're not going to remember a missed travel so much as they're going to remember how you treat them. It's like anyone else you meet in life. You meet someone on the streets tonight and they treat you like a human being. And the next time you see them, you're like, wow, what a nice guy this was. But if they treat you like a jerk, you see them coming down the street, what do? You duck it in their Starbucks. You know, you don't want to talk to them. So these are just some things I've used over years, and it's been a tremendous help to me. It allows you, when you do miss plays, to be able to go have a civil conversation with the coach and get your point across, I guess. Right.
I love it. I love it. Definitely some savviness out of you, these little things. And a lot of the little things make the biggest difference. Are there any specific situations or encounters maybe in the last couple of years that you've had with a coach that might help bring value to the audience?
Yeah, one of the things I've learned now is I'm old. You know, I'm one of the veteran refs. At any level, when I first started high school at the JV level, there were always veteran refs, and I always noticed how the coaches would always flock to them no matter what they called and scream at me. And then when I slowly move up into Division III, Division II, Division I, and now get a really good schedule, I'm very blessed to get it. And I've learned over time, when I first started, I was the one always taking the heat. And I would say, well, this veteran, the play happened 94 feet away from me. I'm nowhere near the play right in front of the veteran, but I'm getting yelled at. So what I had to learn early as I went along is now I want to be known not only as a really good ref, I want to be known as kind of a protector of new refs that are coming on. Because coaches now at all levels, they're going to work the young guy. Yeah. So I want to try to diffuse those situations. And now in the ACC and the Big 12, the Big East, those veteran coaches, they know the refs have been around a while, and they know the newer guys. One of the things I've tried to do the past couple of years more and more is when a younger guy makes a tough call, you know, I'm verbalizing out loud, especially if I'm big side. Hey, that's a great call, Paul. Great pickup, Paul. I wish I'd have had the whistle, Paul. I may not even see the play, but I'm trying to, once again, plant some seeds here so the coach, he may trust me more than he trusts a guy he's never seen before. And he's going, well, I think the ref missed it, but if Roger says he got it right, he must have got it right. In reality, between you and me, and this doesn't go any further, maybe I didn't even see the play, but far as protecting my partner, being someone guys want to work with. And I've learned over the past few years dealing with coaches is, coach, if you'll just give them a chance. When early on in my career, I'll be honest, I was just trying to survive. I was just trying to get my plays right, because the veterans would say, look, your goal tonight is just wrap that 5-foot circle around you and nothing else. That's all fine and dandy until you walk out of the locker room and the bright lights are on and plays happen and you have to make decisions on. But over the past few years, I've learned maybe as I've gotten more experience and learned more dealing with coaches, I've learned if those two coaches will buy my act, if they will trust me, if they will respect me. Notice I didn't say like me. I'm not going to have a but if they'll respect me and trust me, I can get them through a game. And it is chaos. It's 2 hours of chaos. And it's how you manage those situations. Every single game, Paul, is different. Every situation is different. But recall of things you've had in the past sometimes. And I've used verbiage that didn't work, that set off an explosion. And I'm like, take that out of your repertoire.
Which one should we take out?
I want by starting the conversation first. If a coach is upset, I've learned over the years, let them vent first. Let them say what they're going to say. Because a lot of times what I'm ticked off about is nothing what he even wants to talk. It's something totally different. So I'm going at him ticked off, and I've learned to really watch my body language over the years. Don't go out and don't charge them. Don't go at them hard. They're the show. The players, coaches are the show. It's not the officials. You've heard this, and your listeners have heard this. You want to do a game, and the next day people go, who reffed that game, Paul? I don't even remember who reffed it.
Yep.
You don't want to beat the guy that's the antagonistic guy. So I've learned over the year, at first I was quick to tee up people. I was quick to go out and hard. I wanted to show not only the veteran refs on the staff that I wasn't scared or intimidated, but I wanted to show them that I belong out here. And sometimes I've learned over the years, there's good technical fouls and bad technical fouls. And now I call very few technical fouls. If I call a technical foul, it's certainly earned. And usually they don't even call the league office. It's like, I did this, I had to be teed up. But I can count on one hand the tees I call during the season. I very rarely call technical fouls. And that's certainly dropped over time. Now, if they have to respect you to know that you have that in your repertoire. You can call a technical foul if you have to, but the guys who do college basketball and say, well, I called 100 technical fouls last year, I don't think they're going to be around very long. I just think if you have some communication skills, some people skills, some human skills, and you can talk to people, I think you can go a lot further than officiating.
Your low technical foul count definitely speaks to your communication skills and the ability to manage the game in those intense moments. Anything else you want to talk about, coaches, before we move on to players?
Yeah. One big thing, Paul, I want to talk about, we kind of touched on earlier about especially newer refs, whether it's high school, AAU, rec ball. I'm not sure about the NBA, but I'm sure new refs struggle there as well. But college officials coming into a college league, not knowing what to say. Because you paid all this money over the years of going to camp, and I need to do this, I need to do that, and you need to talk to coaches more and don't run from coaches. Here's some verbiages, some language that I use. It's a crowded gym, and most nights I can't hear what the coaches are saying. But I will give them something, especially during a live ball, if I can. Coach, I hear you. Coach, you make a good point. Coach, I'm listening to you. Coach, I'll take a look at it. And sometimes, and a lot of officials don't want to say, Coach, you're right, I missed the play. Sometimes that will diffuse situations. I was listening to your podcast last week with the head coach from the Seattle Storm, and he mentioned on there, if you remember in that podcast, he said, if an official, I don't think I've ever had an official come to me and say, Coach, I missed the play. He said, it instantly calms me down. And I thought when I listened to that podcast, I thought, well, what's wrong with saying if 10,000 people in the arena know it, your partners know it, all your buddies at home are texting going, did you just see that play Ayers messed up? Why not own it and move on from it? Then if the guys who tend not to want to admit mistakes during games have to deal with it the next timeout, the next dead ball, because the coach just won't let it go. But a lot of times my partners will go, Roger, what was that coach yelling about? I say, I have no idea. I couldn't hear it, but I at least gave him, and he thought I could hear him. I at least gave him some communication. It's like anything else in life. If you and I meet and I'm looking you in the eye talking to you, and you turn your back to me and ignore me, that's a huge turnoff. Well, if a coach is right here on a timeout asking me a question and I just stand stone-faced looking straight ahead, that's not going to help the situation. You know, if anything, it antagonizing even more to make it even worse. And a lot of times, all I am trying to do as an official is be the best I can for those 2 hours. Get as many plays as I can get right, work a perfect game, which no one has ever done. You know, I would love to say if I ever do that, I'm going to retire. The hair gel companies will be upset because I won't use it much anymore, but I'm still striving for that. Well, part of getting through that game is dealing with coaches, you know, and if this wants to be antagonistic all night, it's a much harder 2 hours or 40 minutes for me than it is if I can at least halfway get along with him. Just like he's trying to work me, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to work him as well. You know, I'm trying to let him know I'm a human being out here too. I have a job to do. You have a tremendously hard job as well. We've got to work together here. And one thing I've learned over the years is being around it as long as I have is you treat that guy like a jerk 10 years ago and you have him 10 years later, guess what? They don't forget anything. They remember that you were a jerk 10 years ago. So I've learned kill with kindness as much as you can. And if the ones that want to deal with that and work with you over time, goes a lot farther. Because at the end of the day, you as an official, you have the whistle, you have the authority, you're the police officer. You have to control that game. And there's parameters you have to work the game by. And if you start to call technical fouls and throwing people out, the first thing people are going is, who ref that game? I heard all hell broke loose. It got totally out of hand. In reality, you had nothing to do with it. But if you do your best with communication, I think you have a much better shot of getting through that 2 hours. And my big line in the ACC, we get a locker room is, guys, we fooled them again. We got through it. It was a hard 2 hours, but I think we fooled them. You know, they let us work. We let them coach. We let the players play. We called what we had to call. We didn't have any game interrupters. We didn't have any head snappers. We weren't throwing fans out. We weren't throwing coaches out. And most nights, it goes relatively smooth. And obviously, there's atypical nights when things don't go that way. But if every time you turn the TV on and referee A is in a game and there's chaos every night, you start to think, well, maybe it's not so much the teams or coaches. Maybe it's referee A over here. So the less we can diffuse situations, the better. But that's a great question.
Great answer. And just to summarize for the officials listening, what the most popular response from a ref to a coach, and you mentioned it, is just admitting you're wrong. I've heard that answer given from many coaches the last 5, 6, 7 years. It's the undisputed #1 response. I'm not saying to go, you can't use it very often, right? What do you get? 1 a game, 2, 1 on each side, right?
You get 1 a game. If you start using 2,
1 per coach.
Yeah, 1 per coach. Absolutely, no question.
Awesome, that was great. All right, so we will shift towards players now. I got a little lead-up paragraph, and then I'll pass you the ball for an alley-oop. Let's talk about player communication and management. Now, on the lower levels, CYO, AAU, sometimes players can be very difficult to manage, right? Junior college ball can get very difficult. Division III, Division II, very difficult. And of course, the NBA. Notice how I skipped over Division I, and I'm not trying to compare it or say it's easy. It's just my observation from afar, but I feel like Division I players mostly just go out there and play, which is great. You know, they're on a scholarship. They're fighting for playing time. They're trying to become a professional one day. It's the coaches who are most vocal. So that being said, what can you say about working with the players? What has helped you the most with the players?
Yeah, another great question, Paul. I have a whole laundry list of things I do that I've picked up over my 20-some years in Division I basketball. When I first started, players were just like coaches. I was scared to death. Anyone who says they go from a high school level to college back to Division I level, the first time you walk into these arenas and you're a little bit in awe. Everybody in the summer camp says, I can do it. I know I can do this. I can do this better. And guys get on their cell phones during the season and say, well, why did Roger call that? Or this is what I would have done. I would have told this player this. Or that player did this to me. I would have done that. It's all crap. You know, when you get up, the bright lights are on. I'm going to talk to you about the real world. Some of the things I've done over the years is I learned early on that each team has a what? Each team in America has a go-to guy. And he could be the point guard, the quarterback of the team, that even the 7-footers, they bow down to him whenever he says. It could be the big guy. It could be – every team has that guy. And every ref knows, you should know going into games, the games are going to work. You can kind of – once again, you don't know the players' bios or team bios. Who's the guy who plays 20 minutes a game? Who are the go-to guys for each team? Here's a tremendous tip that I hope some of your officials can use, that I use every night. I will go to the go-to guy. If I'm the U1, U2, or 𝘺𝗎𝘄𝑚, whatever it is, I will make a point in those warm-ups instead of, looking up into the stands, shaking hands with the media. I use that when we got the 20-minute mark. I'll make my way down to Team A's end when they're warming up, and I will pull that guy out of his routine, his whatever he's doing, and I'll go up, maybe pat him on the butt or put my arm in. Hey, how you been, Paul? Great to see you again, pal. Man, I saw you the other night on ESPN, man. 34, they couldn't stop you. Hey, look, let's face it. You're the best player your team has. I'm going to keep you in a game tonight. I'm going to do all I can for you. If anything comes up in this game, come to me. I'm your guy, all right? You're the best player on the floor. But it doesn't end there, Paul. I mosey my way back to midcourt or wherever I am. And if you watch me in warm-ups, you'll see, what's Roger doing now? I'll make my way down towards the other end. I've got responsibilities in warm-ups, but I can get towards midcourt and say, hey, Roger, come here. I want to talk to you a second. Well, that player comes running. It's like the ref. I say, what's up? I say, what's up, brother? How you been? Great to see you. Man, you're killing it this year. Obviously, I think you can be the MVP of the league, man. I've been watching you, man. It's good to see you again. I saw you now in sports center, man. You were top 10. Hey, look, you're the leader of your team. I need you tonight, man. I need you. So come to me. I'm your guy. You're the best player on the floor. Now, what I've done, game hasn't even started. But I'm planting seeds with the leaders of both teams. Hey, I got one thinking he's the best player on the court on this end. I got one thinking he's the best player on the court on this end. I've got them both thinking, well, when it goes haywire, I got one ref I can talk to. Now, my biggest fear is they come together in midcourt and say, hey, that ref told me I was the best player out here. So hope that never happens. But what I'm trying to do is try to provide a little bit of a calming effect with the players. Before the game, they look at refs as they may have just come off their right and it didn't go their way and they're ticked off, or their players are always complaining. What I've tried to do is stop that before we even get to the game. These tips I'm giving you, like dealing with the coach and the handshake, these are things before the game ball's even thrown up. Little tips I do. Second thing I do, coming out of timeouts, if you felt like the post is getting too rough and you know the All-American already has 2 quick fouls, instead of just standing there at your spot when they come out of timeout, you may want to go to him and say, hey, big fella, you know you got 2. The third one, you're going to wind up on the bench the rest of this half. I don't want to call it, but you keep putting your knee up this guy's ass, keep pushing him out. I've got no choice. If I'm talking to you in the lead position, I'm trying to help you. Show me your hands. I'm trying to prevent a third foul. Because if I do have to call it, it's like, you know what? I saw the ref communicating with him and he had to do it. The other person you want to talk to, point guards. Early in the game, they can give you a lot of information. If you think it's getting too much hands, too much trash talk, go to that guy the first time out when you're done with it. Go to him and say, hey, 12, I need your help. Hey, the big guys are talking trash in there. You help me, it's going to be a technical foul. I thought I could count on you. I want them to say, well, I've got a relationship with this official. The other great thing I do is on timeouts. No one on this podcast has ever called a 10-second violation on a free throw, I'm sure, from a slot position. It's never been called. I mean, we do a pretty little count, but it's never been called. But most times, if you watch, there are always guards outside that three-point arc close to the officials. So while I'm doing my count, I might say, hey, 10, 22, we good tonight? Everything okay out here? Anything I need to know about? Give me some information. We're good. They're like, they look at you like you're crazy going, this ref's talking to me? Then he's giving me information. They're like, well, this guy's not so bad. Then inside on free throws, I'm administering official. Before I bounce in the ball, that's a great time because on the low block and the next, there's the 2 big guys, the 2 post players who have been fighting, scrapping, clawing in there. And if you think it's getting too, instead of being in such a hurry to bounce the ball, go right to those 2 players. Guys, I've had enough. I'm trying to let you play. If you continue the road, you're going down. I got to call fouls. I have no choice. Not only am I playing the seed with those 2 guys, but who else am I trying to watch that conversation? The head coaches. Because let's say we go to the other end and there's a 50-50 play and I have to call foul the post. They're going, they're yelling. Usually they're yelling at their players saying, I just saw him yell at you on the free throw. They're talking on the free throw about not going through the guy in the back or not putting your knee up his rear end in the post. That's why he caught it. Or, guys, help me on screens. Whatever you're trying to do, that is a great time to communicate on timeouts. If you can talk players out of things, the better. And the other part about communicating with players, Paul, is I've learned, don't just verbalize things, make it personal. And what I mean by that is if you're talking to a player, hey, 10, show me your hands. 50, ease up. 20, they know their number. But if you're just saying, down the lane, ease up in the post, players never think you're talking to them because they do nothing wrong. But if you make it personal, 50, get out of the lane. 50, get out, and then you call 3 seconds on 50, everybody's heard it. He's heard it, but who else has heard it? The head coach. Yeah. He may not like that you called it, but he's going to go, damn, I heard him tell you get out of the lane twice. Or, Jeffrey, I heard him tell you to show you on the screens, not too wide. It's obviously a legal screen. All I'm trying to do, once again, this whole thing is about planting seeds to help me when I do blow the whistle. Once again, I talked about earlier when the player gets hurt and he goes to the free throw line. I may walk up to him and say, hey, you're not, back off, take your time. I'm going to go in and get a time, wipe the ball. You tell me when you're ready. 99 times out of 100, the player goes, thank you, Mr. Ref. Thank you. Little things like that. The other thing I try to do is after skirmishes on the floor, don't be in such a rush to worry about the arrow. If it's a possession arrow type play, don't be in such a rush to look at the arrow, who's getting the ball. Get those players separated. Get the 5 blue jerseys separated, the 5 white jerseys separated. Don't worry about the arrow. That is also a great time to talk to players. If they've gotten a little bit easy, guys, good hustle. I got you. Great play. We're good. Come up clean, guys. Communicating, trying to calm them down. Once again, I tell this story all the time. If a kid goes in the store and he wants to steal some candy and stick it in his pocket and walk out and gets away with it, and the next time he goes to the store, he sees a cop standing there at the register. He's not going to do it because there's a cop watching what he's doing. Same thing. Players go a hard foul. We've all had them. Players go on a breakaway layup and he gets fouled hard from behind. The official that's nearest to play needs to run in there, but don't go to the player who committed the foul. Get to the player who's on the ground, who's ticked off, the one who got knocked down hard. That's the guy you got to calm down. Easy, big fella. I got you. You're going to get 2 free throws. I'm going to go look at the monitor. I may throw him out. I don't want to tee you. You stay calm. You're staying in the game. You're my guy. Calm him down. The guy who committed the foul already knows he's in trouble. Right. He's not the one who's going to cause the problem. The guy who got knocked to the ground is the one that's ticked off. So these are all little things you have to think about during a game that you have to put in your game. These are all, it have to be second nature. And a lot of times guys are calling fouls and just immediately go on the table to report. I'm saying, whoa, slow down. Let's get these guys separated. If we have 2 different colored jerseys tied up and they're jawing, we have problems. If we can get them separated, the better. So there's some tips I use dealing with players, and so far they've worked.
I absolutely love it. I've been talking about giving players compliments. One, players are not used to hearing from us, like not during a dead ball, right? They hear from us during live balls and like in game play is what I'm saying. So when you go up to a player before a game and you give him a compliment, you're grabbing his attention by flattering him. You're building rapport by saying you've been watching his highlights. Then you deliver your message, which is going to have him, come to you quicker, or you've just built that, you've established that relationship.
Great point. Because I've been in games when I've had a relationship with players and a guy maybe I don't know, or a freshman or a kid will come in the game and he's going to show everybody that he was the big star in AAU and high school basketball, and he wants to start jawing or talking trash. I've had the junior and senior year players go, Roger, I got him. Leave this ref alone. This is my guy. I've known him since I was a freshman. This is my guy. And I'm thinking, I didn't have to do anything. Yeah. And then a couple years later, that same player who's now been around a while go, how you been, Roger? Great to see you. Glad you joined my game. I haven't had to do any of the work. It's just because over time. Because a lot of times the new are the head cases, but if you've got relationships over the other guys, they do your dirty work for you.
Can you identify some of the most common times where you're proactively officiating, using your voice? Like which plays stand out? I know in the post, entry passes, you know, cutters. What other plays stand out for you where you're using your voice a lot?
One of the plays I use my voice, and you're probably going to laugh, and some of your officials may have never heard this before, is I use my voice on dead balls. And you may say, no, what is he talking about? Like if I have a problem in the post with two players and I've talked to them and they're ignoring me, before I miss a free throw, I may bounce the ball in a lane and look to my two partners and go, hey, Paul, hey, Jeff, I'm done with number 25 and number 50. We're done with them. I'm verbalizing during dead balls. I want those two guys to know I'm done with it, but I want my two partners to know what's going on here to keep their antennas up. I want the coaches to know, hey, they're done with these two guys. So a lot of guys talk to players in the post. I get it. And talking is great. Communication is great in the post until one thing. They stop listening. Mm-hmm. You know, if they will listen to you and back off, I don't think any official on this podcast wants to go in a game saying, I had to call 100 fouls. Or I had to have 50 fouls and 85 free throws. Because what's everybody say? The refs ruined the game. Mm-hmm. We didn't ruin the game. We just ref the game that was presented to us. But I tell people, if you can go in a game early and communicate and use your voice, like I always say, come to the court in the backcourt, no hands. Show me your hands. Give me space. Or in the post. Get out of the lane. Hey, guys, get your elbow out of his back. Don't extend it. You know, all these things I'm talking out loud, but once again, I'm using their numbers, making it verbal. Because if you can verbalize something and they back off and they just play basketball, your job is much easier. When you start blowing the whistle and there's balls and we're shooting free throws and coaches are complaining, players are complaining, and the worst thing you want to hear as an official is 2 minutes into the game is the PA guy go, and that's the point guard's third foul. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the All-American big guy. That's just third foul. We played 3 minutes. Yeah. Anything you can do to prevent that, the better. Now, there are going to be games you can't. Plays present themselves. You have to call them. But if you've done everything you possibly can to keep that game under control, players under control, coaches under control, as I said, if you can do that most nights, officiating is extremely hard. I don't care if you're doing Saturday morning AAU ball or rec ball or doing NBA. It is tremendously hard. There are very few people in the world can do what officials do. Now, the moms and dads and they all think they can. Yeah. Coaches, everybody thinks they can, but officiating is extremely hard. And I watch guys on TV. I watch college games. I watch NBA games. I am in awe of those guys. There are some incredible refs out there who make it look so easy. Those are the guys I steal from. I watch and I just try to pick their brain off. Sometimes I don't even know who the official is. An NBA game I'll watch and I'll go, I like his mechanics. I like his body language. That's the other thing I hope we get a chance to talk about today is body language is so important. From the time you walk out on the floor, Paul, you need to look the part. Clean uniform, the shoe, all that part, the hair, which I'm big on hair. I know that shocks the listeners, but that's all important. But how you stand, even on timeouts. Like I work with guys and I'll look at them on timeouts and they're slouched down, they're bent over, they're drinking water, it's running down their chin. They look, no, just the opposite. Timeouts is when a majority of people are actually looking at you because everybody's on the bench. There's nobody on the court but 3 refs. People are looking at you going, he didn't even look like a ref, or look at his body language, look at his posture. I didn't realize he was that heavy, or I didn't, all these, that's a time you want to stand like a drill sergeant. You're working. That 2 hours, just because the teams take a timeout mentally and we don't take timeouts. I try to tell myself, Roger, someone's in this room night watching you for the very first time, or Roger, remember when you went to camp and you knew the supervisor of the ACC was going to be there, how hard you worked, how hard you ran. He's watching everything you do. That's how I try to treat every game. And for the officials on this podcast that are listening to this, I would tell you, don't take dead balls off. And look at how you're standing, how your body language. Do you look like a professional? Do you look like you belong out there? Are you an athlete? Are you part of the game, or are you slouched down like, thank God we had a timeout, I'm huffing and puffing? No, just the opposite. A quick story I'll tell you is, I got pulled over by a state trooper several years ago, and I noticed when he walked up to my car, I immediately respected him because the uniform, the crisp hat, the way he talked to me, his voice, confident, strong. It could have been his first day on the road. But if he'd have walked up to me like Barney Fife, you know, his shirt tail out and he's slagging, I would not have respected him. But the same with officials. If you look the part, you have a strong voice that commands respect. When you use it and you talk to players and coaches, they'll respond to that respect. You know, and that's all part of the gig. But using my voice, like your original question, is strong. But I do it just as much on dead ball. Even teams coming out of a timeout, I just don't stand 30 feet away and go, "Hey, first horn, go," whatever, when it's convenient. Coming, no, hit that whistle hard. First horn, let's go, guys. Let them know you're there. You know, sometimes there's a different voice cadence. I know 𝘺𝘺𝘀𝘺𝘧 uses this all the time. I'm sure you've heard Al say this. There are different times to use your voice. You know, there's a calm voice when you're trying to calm someone down. There's a middle voice, and then there's a voice of "I'm done playing," like a tough out of bounds play. If everyone in the arena sees the ball is off white, it's going to be blue ball. There's no sense to put a big show on blue. But if it's a bang bang play that only you saw, your voice has to change, has to be stronger, has to settle. A tough block charge play that somebody's going to be ticked off on, that's not the time to be soft. That's the time to be strong. Strong whistle, strong voice, strong mechanics. And as a new official coming up, I think if you can do those, strong voice, strong mechanics, I think you're going to be much better off, more believability.
I love it. Let's talk about when a player is starting to act up, starting to complain. You're going to go address that player. Are you also going to address his head coach kind of as a courtesy, letting the head coach know that you've already had conversations with him, and I just wanted to let you know that, coach?
Yeah, another great question. And obviously that's going to happen. Because these players, since they were 5 or 6 years old, have been told, "You're the greatest player ever. You're going to be the next LeBron. You're going to be the next." But when they get to the college level, some of the things they may have got away with in high school or AAU ball or the summer circuit, they're not going to get away with it in Division III, Division II, Division I, because the officiating is obviously improving, getting better. You know, and so I give him the benefit of the doubt early. Like I said early in the game. But if he wants to continue to be a jerk, the first thing as I do is I let him know, "Okay, I've had enough. Our conversations are over." And I do this on a dead ball. And you may say, "No, why would you do this on a dead ball?" First of all, live ball, we're busy. We got a lot going on. But in my back of my mind, I'm going, you know what? Number 10's been a jerk. He's trying to show me up, not at the level of a technical foul, because what technical fouls need, if he's being a jerk and does something, waves me off or costing me, that's different. I'm talking about the average Joe early in the game. If he's being an irritant to me, and I've tried all these tricks that I've spent all this time talking to you about, and none of this has worked, then I say, okay, now it's going to be, he wants to show himself. Now I've got to show my authority. First person I'm going to tell is him, "I'm done. No, I'm not talking to you anymore tonight. I've tried." And he'll be, "Oh, come on. No, we're done." Because I know that what's truly inside him. He doesn't want to talk to me. Now he's a little nervous about what I might do. Before I get to the head coach, though, and warn him, I've told him I'm done with him. There's 2 other people I'm going to let know. "Hey, Paul and Al, I'm done with number 10 tonight. He's all yours. I'm done talking to him. You handle him." And because it puts their antennas up to know 10's been a jerk. And most solid, veteran, good partners are going, "Well, if Paul and Al are done with him, myself, I'm going, well, I'm done with him too."
All done.
The last person I want to get to is the head coach. "Coach, you've seen what we've had to put up with. 10 is all yours. Either you handle him or I'm going to have to handle him." And I've even went to coach and say, "Look, if you take him out of the game and calm him down, I'm going to call technical foul." I never, and that's very rare, but I've never had a coach come back to me and say, "I'm leaving him in the game." Most coaches, you know what they tell me? "Roger, you should deal with him 7 days a week."
Yeah, I know. It's funny. That's
what they say.
Yeah.
We've all heard it. They go, "We can't control him either." And I go, "Well, I'm just giving you a heads up. I've told him I'm done. This whole arena saw where my partners were all done with him. What do you want me to do?" And I've even had coaches, believe it or not, listeners, coaches told me, "Go ahead, team. He won't listen to me. Go and do it." Well, then the handcuffs are all free. It's like, so when you do it, it's like the player's not going to go run to the coach, because the coach is going to be like, "I told him to throw you out." You know, those are little things right there that, but yeah, definitely talk to the player first so he knows, and then it's not such a big surprise, but let your partners know verbally, out loud. One of the things we do a poor job, I think, especially of newer officials, is we do a poor job of communicating on the floor with each other. Players are communicating, coaches are communicating, assistant coaches are communicating, fans are communicating. Everybody's communicating during a game except us. Sometimes refs were like robots and we don't want to communicate. Well, dead ball, nothing's happening. That's a great time to say, "Hey, Paul, it's getting a little rough in the post down here. Let's keep an eye on it, all right? Or, hey, Paul, Tim's decided he wants to ref a little bit. Let's be aware of him. That is a great time to communicate because I may bring something to your attention you weren't even aware of. And you may say, yeah, Roger, I noticed it too. And also keep an eye on 50 over here. Great. Let me know any information my partners can give me or I can give you. Hope it goes smoothly. I don't want to get surprised. But if he goes, yeah, I've been talking to 10 all night too, that even helps me more going, then we're certainly done. He doesn't listen to any of us. He doesn't get 10 warnings. I warn him, Paul warns him, Jeff warns him, the coach will warn him. No. Now we got to address it. But yeah, that's a tip that hopefully all your listeners can use.
Love it. I got to call a 30-second timeout. Go get my charger, all right? Be right back.
Okay. First torn, Paul.
All right, let's talk about communication with our fellow officials. What are some ways that we can improve that crew dynamics?
To be honest with you, I think over the years, it's kind of diminished. I know maybe when you were doing high school and I was doing high school 25 years ago, the JV guys always rode with the varsity ref, the old school guys who would sit in the back seat and just listen, not say anything. You know, as time goes on, a lot of JV guys starting out and just say, I'll meet you at the gym. And the varsity guys don't want to take the JV guys because they don't want to leave an hour and a half early to get better. I learned so much riding in the backseat of cars, listening to what those veteran refs would say. And even now, I've noticed as I've moved up in the Division I a lot more, a lot of refs now maybe don't stay at the same hotel anymore. Take 3 different rental cars, get to the games at different times. One of the things that I try to do personally is I would love for us all to stay, and for the most part, our guys do, stay in the same hotel. Let's start that bonding. Like, first of all, let's maybe have a light lunch or something. Just talk about, hey, Paul, how's your family? Where you been? Where you coming from? How are things going? How's the family? How was your travel? Not even talking basketball. How's life? How are things going? Okay, just to kind of get maybe a little bit of a relationship. I haven't seen you in a month, Paul. I mean, you're on TV every night, but I haven't really got to see you. I don't know what's going on in your world. And then maybe start talking. Man, I had this team we got tonight, and I had this team 2 weeks ago. It didn't go well. You know, maybe this coach and I had a technical foul, or the game didn't end well. And you can go, yeah, well, I had some issues with the other team. Just some little things. Start the conversation about the game so we can survive that 2 hours. Maybe start over lunch. And a lot of guys now don't do that anymore. I try to push that. I try to push right into the games together if we can, especially if we're in the same city. Let's take one card. I just think the crew dynamic, it just looks better. You're bonding, you look better. If you come in the locker room, and some guys, there's egos. I get it. Like, I'm going to do my own thing. I'll see in the locker room. But there's just something about coming to the game together. It's like for that day, the league put us together. We need to work together. We need to drive together. We need to maybe have lunch together. We're a team for that 2 hours. But some of the things I do is we need, John Clark used to say this all the time to us, we need more simplifiers in officiating and less complicators. In Division I level, there are complicators who make things not only difficult for coaches and players and supervisors, but they make it difficult for us. Let's face it, when you get your schedule and I get my schedule, we all look at 2 things. One, the game, what's the game? And number 2, who are you with? And when you look at your partners and go, I'm with Paul and this guy, like, you're like, immediately you feel relaxed. Like, I love working with him. Great partner, great guy. But it's just the opposite when you look at, wow, that's a really good game, but who am I with? And you go, oh no. You don't be known as that jerk. Don't be known as the guy that knows everything. Be the guy that when especially newer refs are coming up, they're like, I want to work with that guy. I want to steal from that guy. I want to pick his brain. I want to do, what did he say to that coach? I want to get as much information out of I can out of Roger Ayers on our game Saturday, so I can use it in my game on Sunday. And then what I'm trying to do with the newer guys who are coming up is make them feel as most comfortable as they can. Like, let's face it, if you have 3 veteran referees in a game in late February, we're not going to sit and have an hour and a half pregame. We know by that time of year, the rules. We know what we're going to do. We know the coaches. We know the club. We know what we're going to do going in that game. We obviously have a pregame, but it's not going to be as in-depth maybe as it would be if it's November and it's a first-year guy in your league. You want to make him feel like he's a Final Four ref. You want to make him feel like he's an NBA Finals ref. You want to make that guy feel like he belongs. Because quite honestly, if the NBA has hired him, or Division I, ACC, or what, Big 12, whatever's hired this official, obviously they think he should be there. Well, that's not your job to make that decision. Your job is to help him get through that, mentor him a little bit for that 2 hours. And on the flip side, I would tell younger refs, when you come in the locker room, don't have the ego. Listen to that old guy there who's been in a lot of these wars. I know with Jim Burr or Timmy Higgins or Bob Donato, Eddie Corbett, John Fogerty, John Cale, those guys, Brian Kersey. When I would work with those guys, I sat in the locker room and I shut up. I listened. When they wanted to talk, I took as much. The tips that they gave me 20 years ago, believe it or not, still work this upcoming season. I try to take as much as I can. When a new ref comes in the locker room, he's got his earbuds in, he's listening to music, he's too cool, he's like, I've arrived now, I got a fancy whistle, and nice. I'm like, what are you doing? Immediately it's antagonistic. You want to be the guy that comes in the locker room going, help me. What can I do to get where you're at? You've been in this league 20 years. How have you survived 20 years of this chaos? And then it's on the veterans to give back. I don't think we do as good enough job as we probably should. One of the reasons I like doing these podcasts, and obviously I'm a big fan of Crown Refs, is because I know this is going to go out to a lot of officials. And if it only helps one official, one tidbit I've given you today, if it helps one guy this upcoming January in a tough play or a tough situation, and he can remember, I was on Crown Refs, I remember what Roger Ayers said, I'm going to try it, how this works, then this is all well worth it to me. But we as veteran refs need to give back more. We're fortunate. We get our schedule, we get our games, but there are thousands and thousands of refs that are trying to make that climb. You as one, I can't wait till you get in the ACC one day and we're going to laugh about this. Now, you're buying dinner that night, but I'm going to say, hey, Paul, remember when we had that big, how hard you were working to get there? That's the other thing I would tell refs. When you think you've reached the mountaintop, I always tell refs, go back to the day you got that phone call or that email or that text message that, hey, Paul, I'm hiring you in your first Division I league. How exciting that is for you. I still remember the day in 1998 when back then there was a letter. There was no email back then or the phone. I had a letter in the mailbox and it said Atlantic Coast Conference, welcome to the league. I never forgot how I felt. I sat down on that curb and I had tears in my eyes. Like all the camps, all the money, all the AAU on weekends, working 10 games a day. And as happy as I was, wow, I'm an ACC ref now. I wasn't an ACC ref. I was just on a roster, but I ref every game to this day like it's still 1998. Like that passion I feel of an official, no matter what game it is. When I walk in the arena, I'm like, you know what? I still have that fire that the day I got hired, I want to keep proving myself, proving that they were right to give me a chance. Like people say, Roger, I watched you the other night in that so-called big game, but the next night in a smaller league, you ran just as hard. Your mechanics were just the same. That's because I never changed. Every single game I work, I want that coach tonight going, wow, I see why he got the Duke Carolina game. He's working just as hard tonight. I see why he's in the ACC. And he might be in the Big South tonight, but to me, that Big South game is bigger than any ACC game I got because that's a game I have tonight. If refs ref with that mentality, especially the newer guys, don't come in thinking I've arrived or I'm in the ACC, but I got to go to the Colonial tomorrow. You should be thankful you're going to Colonial because thousands of refs are out there going, I would give anything to go work. The other tidbit I would give young officials as they're coming up, Paul, is your schedule's not going to be extensive your first few years. Now, you can sit home and complain. Like, wow, I got hired in my first Division I league and I got 2 games. That's all I got. What I did was when I got in the ACC, I'll tell the world. My first ACC calendar, Paul, you know how many games it had on it? 0. 1998, I was in the ACC. I got the letter in August. Schedule comes out in October. And once again, a letter in the mail with the calendar. Your ACC schedule is attached. November, December, January calendar, not one X. Well, I could have been ticked off or had an ego. I did just the opposite. I called the ACC office and said, just got my schedule. I'm pumped. Can you tell me where the scrimmages are at? Where's some exhibition game? Where can I go work? 1 year, my first year in the ACC, on a Saturday morning, I worked at James Madison University, which is almost 2 hours from my house at 9 a.m. I left there, drove to the University of Virginia, worked a scrimmage at 2 o'clock.
What, double?
Triple. Left there, drove back through my home and run, kept driving, and went to Radford University and worked the Big South scrimmage that night, M squad against VMI. Did 3 in 1 day. But what happened over that time, instead of me sitting home being bitter, is I started networking. I was working with veteran guys who, what I've learned about veteran refs is they don't like doing scrimmages. And when I show up and they're going, you mean you want to work, kid? I'll sit over here in the bleachers and observe you. I was like, please do.
Good.
I'd go work all day long. So instead of sitting home making excuses, yeah, they were using me because they were sitting in the bleachers and I was dying with sweat, but I kept working because I was picking their brain. And then I would say, well, referee X, when's your first game at Virginia? When's your first game at Virginia Tech? Do you mind if I tag along? Can I go? Can I go sit in the locker room? And for my sake, they were always happy to help me because I just helped them for 2 hours. They'd call the office and say, yeah, that scrimmage was hard. We gave them all we had. They didn't even change clothes because I worked it for them. But they're like, we worked with this young kid named Ricky. Or maybe his name's Randy, Robert, somebody. But I think he's got a chance. You know, I think maybe, so younger refs on here, do what you can do. You do what you can do to be better. But it's back to the partnering thing is I try to make that official 10-foot tall and bulletproof. I try to make him feel like he's better than he is, especially during games. I try to pump him up. Sometimes, Paul, if you make a tough call and you look at your partner and he's staring at the floor, he's staring at the ceiling, what do you think the veterans think? You feel, oh gosh, he doesn't like it either. He thinks I missed the play. Sometimes something as simple as just a nod to that guy or fist bump or recall or great, give him a thumbs up, or they report a foul and they walk by you and I'll go, that's a great call, big time call. And in reality, maybe it's not. But at that moment, I need to pump that ref back up, make him feel comfortable. So maybe after the game, I can say, well, let's talk about that play. Let's talk about but during the game, I don't need his confidence swaying. I need his confidence up here. And I want refs who work with me to feel like no matter what I do, Roger Ayers as a partner is going to have my back. I can trust him. I don't have to worry about him over there talking to coaches, selling me out. Because one of the things that all refs on this podcast, yourself included, myself included, you make a tough call and you look over your partner is hugging the coach or talking to the coach. No ref in America likes that. Mm-hmm. I don't like it either. So I tell myself after a newer partner I'm working with, and he's just made a tough call, the coach like, Roger, come here a second. No, coach, I can hear you fine from 10 feet on a free throw and trail. Coach, I hear you fine. If he wants to verbalize something, then everybody hears it. But I'm not going to be the guy that's going to go stand right beside the coach and try to get brownie points. I've already been in the league 20 years. That young guy across the court, I need his confidence up here. And when he just had a tough call, instead of being the veteran on this podcast, looking down at him or pump him up. That's a big time call, Paul. That's an ACC call, Paul. Welcome to the league, Paul. How does that make you feel? You're like, I can do no wrong now. Because if a ref officiates a game and now he feels like I've got the veteran ref on this game watching my back and getting me through this, I can handle anything out here. And I've learned over the years, if I can keep you pumped up and ready to ref, games go much smoother.
That's a great tip, because in that 1 to 2 second moment where maybe the calling official doesn't feel very confident about his call, you totally reversed his psychology. You empowered him and kind of uplifted his spirit. And it's a game changer, because I've been on both ends of that, where an official told me that in that moment and I'm a new guy, and I saw the effect of me delivering that message to a younger official, and it really works. So you're giving us a lot of great tips on how to be a great partner. So I really appreciate that. It's funny, you worked 3 Division I scrimmages in one day. That's got to be a world record. It only makes sense that you're working 90, 95 games every year that I see on Philly Ref.
Well, the one thing I will say now, the games pay more than them 3 scrimmages I worked. I think between the 3 schools, I got a 6'8" subway. They didn't even biggie size it for me, but it was all my part of putting in the work. Like, no matter what anyone doesn't like, if you put the work in, hopefully you're going to get paid off later. And I was looking at that as an opportunity, because I looked at my schedule. I had no games, so I could sit home and swing my ACC whistle around going, but I got no games, so I can get out there and work. And that's what I tried to do. So, you know, I do work a lot of games because I still have a passion. I love the game. And if I ever feel like I'm slowing down or I'm hurting the game or I think I'm losing a step, then I'll cut back. But as long as the supervisors and coaches trust me and respect me, once again, I don't say like me, love me, none of that. If they respect me enough when I walk out there, even though they say, well, he's worked 5 games this week, if they look out there and go, but he looks just as fresh today on Saturday as he did last Sunday. When coaches watch tape just like we do. They know where I've been. They know where I've fished. They have Philly rep. They know your tendencies. They know you. So if anything, I try to work hard. As the season goes on, I try to get not only mentally tougher, but physically. I'm going to work harder tonight. And it is a drain. It's hard. If you ask any coach, any player, any official, by February, everyone is tired. But when those bright lights come on, I still get that thrill. Like when you're in the tunnel and you walk out and that crowd is rocking and that band's rocking, and then your first boo of the night, I'm like, now I'm back in it. This is how, you know, this is where I belong. This is my element. When the season ended this year abruptly, I was crushed. Like most officials, you know, it killed me because I love March Madness. I love the thrill of that tournament. And now hopefully we can get this under control and have an upcoming season, which we've got to get COVID under control. But, you know, things are a lot more important in basketball. But I am very grateful. We have a season. I can't wait to get back out. I can't wait to be booed. I can't wait to walk out and somebody screaming my name that I suck. Then I feel like I'm back home.
You love the chaos, right?
Love it. Love chaos.
So for this next question, put your fire suit on. To work NCAA Division I basketball at the level you do for so long, you've had to deal with a lot of hot situations, a career of frequently working in the heat of the moment. So you're fully equipped to be able to put out emotional fires, so to speak. Let me ask you this. How has your previous career as an actual firefighter helped you become a better basketball official?
First thing I would say is partnering. The one thing you ask any firefighter, medic, EMS, any one of those will tell you, you never go into a fire by yourself. There's always a partner with you. You never come out of a fire by yourself. There's always a partner with you. And that's one of the things I learned in my training was there's always a partner there. You never leave them hanging. That's life and death, obviously. What those guys do now day to day, I admire so much. I've been in their shoes. I know it's amazing what firefighters and police officers. I know, I get it. But same with officiating. When you walk out on that floor, and you've heard this since the first time you rep, the only friends you have are your partners. Mm-hmm. You know, whether it's 2-man JV or 3-person, that's the only friends you have for 2 hours. Maybe you may not like that person as much. You may not love that person. You may not have the same hobbies, things in life. But for that 2 hours, that's your life and death. That's your lifeline. The same like when the firefighting, the hose was our lifeline. You know, anytime you go into a fire and you have a hose, that's your lifeline back out to the hydrant in the truck. Same in officiating. Those 2 guys I'm with tonight, we have to get through this together. If I ref a game this year with you and say 𝘵𝘮𝘳, we work a game together in the ACC, if all chaos breaks loose, it all hits a fan, it's going to come back on me. You know, I need to build my crew up, it's the same in the firefighting. There's a captain, assistant chief, whatever. They're in charge of that scene or that game. Same with officiating. Every game has a crew chief. Well, ultimately, that crew chief is in charge of the game. Everything that happens in that game, from arrival time to getting on the floor, to the coaches, to the table, to the clock, all that somebody's got to be in charge. You have to be that leader. It's just like firefighting. You start out in the back of the truck. You know, you're the young guy. They send the young guys in the burning buildings. As you work up and get more experience, you become a captain, a lieutenant, or assistant chief. You're now in charge. So same with officiating. You know, I look at every game as, you know what, maybe this is like a fire. This is what my training does. I've got 2 great partners. I'm not going to leave them tonight. We're going to get back on that truck and go back to the station together. No matter what happens, I'm going to make sure I protect them tonight. And I know the same. They have my back. They have my life. When I look out there and go, you know what, that's my guys to me. So that's a great question. I still think about the firefighting all the time.
That's awesome. And it must have been great preparation for you because there's so much of a correlation between the two vocations.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're able to apply a lot from your previous career. So Roger, you've refereed some incredible talent, many that have gone on to have long and successful NBA careers. You've got to watch a couple different generations of just, straight college legends, right? So which players or performances stand out the most, would you say, in your mind? Can you think of any notable ones?
Yeah, there are several. Funny story, I had Kevin Durant's last game. The NCAA tournament, he was at Texas, and I'm standing beside him when I heard all the hype about him. I wasn't in the Big 12 at that time. I was very happy just to be in the NCAA tournament. But I'm standing beside Kevin Durant, and I said, it was late in the game. He was going to lose, and you could tell he was upset. And I stand beside him, and I says, hey, look, you're going to have a great career, man. I'll never forget him patting me on the butt. He said, you worked hard today. And that meant something to me. And then a quick little story last year, Zion Williams at Duke, all the hype coming, everybody knew Zion, everybody knew all this stuff. He got injured, and then late in the year he came back and he played in the Duke Carolina game, whatever, in the ACC tournament. So I had him in that game. It's going to be an instant classic. And late in the game, he's coming out of a timeout, and he just said, "Ref, where's the ball?" And I said, "It's right here." I said, "I got something for you." I said, "I give you some advice." He said, "Yeah, Ref, what?" I said, "If I were you, I would go the NBA route instead of officiating. I think I would try that first." But then he just started laughing. He goes, "I don't know, man. Maybe I should ref." I said, "You do that first, then come back to see me." Right. These people are human. You kind of talk to them. But I ref some incredible players. Russell Westbrook, J.J. Redick when he played at Duke. He's from here in Roanoke, actually from Virginia. Great shooter. I remember when he got in the NBA, he was drafted. They had a local roast for him here in Roanoke, and I went just to congratulate him. He was going to the NBA, and he actually got up at the roast and said, "Hey, and I see Roger Ayers over there. He never put me on the free throw line at Duke. So, hey, Roger, I made it to the NBA without you." You typically got just a great big laugh out of it. But guys like him, Carmelo Anthony was a tremendous talent. There's so many. Trey Young, just an incredible shooter. He took shots at Oklahoma. He'd come across the half court shoot. I go, they would go. And I remember one time I had him. He was playing Wichita State, and he took a jump shot and he missed it. And we go down the court, and the ball's out. He comes to me and he says, "Hey, ref, the guy clipped me. The guy landed on my foot. I couldn't finish my follow through." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, whatever, yeah, okay." So at halftime, I go look at the play. He was absolutely right. So I go back out, and they come out of the huddle, start the second half, and I said, "Trey, looked at the play. You were right." He was dumbfounded that, first of all, a ref would go look at the play, and second of all, a ref would admit he missed the play. But what I've learned over the years, these players that you watch on TV, all the hype and all, they're just kids. They're just that love basketball, have an unbelievable talent. But just to be around those players, and sometimes you watch some of the things they can do, and it's incredible. Sometimes I look back on my career and pinch myself. Like people say, "Did you ref that guy?" And I'll go, "Well, yeah, I did." Or, "Yeah, I ref that guy." And it's just, I have nothing but fond memories of all those guys. There's too many to even talk about. I mean, just so many players that went on not only to be great basketball players, but to be great people in life. That's the other thing I like about officiating. People say, "What's your favorite partner?" And maybe I'm in the minority here, but I would rather work with a really good ref who is an incredible person off the floor than one of the best refs in the world who's a jerk off the floor, someone you don't want to be around. So I tell my supervisors all the time, give me the really good ref who maybe is trying to make it over the so-called superstar who knows everything. I'm big on that. I wanted to be surrounded by positive people, good people. I don't want to be surrounded by jerks. And what I learned about a lot of those players is once a game starts, they're not all bad. They're actually a lot of good kids raised by great families, play with great coaches. And you mentioned earlier in this podcast about the Division I level. When you get to that level, most of the time, you don't have to deal with players. If you have a head case, just go to the coach handles it. But what I've learned all is I try to pump those players up and let them know, look, I'm a human being also. I have a tough job just like you do, and I admire what you do. But just to kind of put the human element back in, sometimes I think as officials, all we do is call fouls. And you mentioned at the very beginning, we know the rule book, we know the case book, but there's also a life book. Life, how you treat people as a human being. Just because I put a black and white shirt and a whistle doesn't mean that I know everything. I make mistakes out there. I'm human. So don't go in with the attitude of I know everything. Try to learn every night and be a sponge. You hear that from the first camp, be a sponge, try to pick up something. Well, I still try to do that to this day. So another great question.
Just want to take a quick 30-second time out from the episode and thank all of the officials who recently submitted their questions to Roger to be read off on episode 100. So what you're about to see next is me going back and forth in a final 2-minute speed round, although it lasted about 12 minutes. So it just means it was 6 times as good as we thought it would be. And that's because of your wide range of questions that you submitted. So just wanted to say thank you and back to the podcast. So I'd like to do something new for episode 100 of the Crown Refs podcast, something called the last 2 minutes. It's a speed round of questions. Recently, I put out a post with your picture, letting the officials in the audience know that you're going to be coming on, and if they would like to ask you any questions. Got a lot of questions. There was an outpour of them, so I picked some really good ones. So I'm just going to mention the official's name and ask you the question, and we'll kind of do a quick back and forth. Sound good?
Sure, perfect. Let's go for it.
All right. So Jeremy Reynou says, how has your conditioning and workouts changed from the season to off season?
Great question. There is no off season for me. Diet, exercise has to be a year-round thing. You're going to make it.
Mr. Randy Jones asks, when players or coaches are questioning a play, do you know the answer most of the time?
I may think I do. The first thing I do is just listen, let them vent, and then I'll give them the answer.
Got it. Ernest from Chicago, what's your advice for young officials moving from high school to the college level?
Patience. Be very patient. It's going to take a while. It's not going to go as quick as it went in high school.
My friend Scott Hamby, if you could go back and give your younger self some advice, what would that be?
Use more hair gel early in my career. No, I'm just kidding. To maybe find a few mentors early on in my career that I could kind of count on. Maybe try to do everything myself. But also the rule book. I should have studied more of the rule book earlier. When I was at U2, I didn't worry about the rules so much. I was just trying to survive. But a new rep, I would say get that rule book case book, because you can certainly bail out a better rep.
Thomas St. John asks, what are the most effective ways to deal with, I have to change this word, to deal with an upset coach?
Upset coach. Let them vent. Let them vent, because remember, at the end of the day, you're the authority figure. You have to make the decisions, but don't always be a yes man. Don't always, let them vent, and then you give them the answer, then move on, then put the ball back in play. Go. Let them move on. You let them get back to coaching.
Chase Combs from Tennessee, do you prefer calling a day or a night game?
Absolutely night game, for one reason, my nap.
Okay, you're a big daytime, you're a big napper?
Love a big, because I like to take the first flight in, a light breakfast, some stretching, light exercising, a lunch with my crew, and then that afternoon power nap, because then I got to get up, shower, and get this hair just right. So preferably the night game.
I love it. Hannah Matherly from Mobile, Alabama. What is your personal mistake recovery strategy?
To be my toughest critic, to own it, don't run from it. But after I've made a screw up or a misplay, I always try to leave myself with, I watch a positive play. I watch a tough play that I got right. So I don't leave, when I do my video break, I don't leave, turn the laptop off or iPad off with a negative play. I own it. Why did I miss it? But I also, before I ever cut the iPad off, I go back and look at the tough black choice player play that I got right. So I leave it with a positive instead of going to bed at night with a negative.
Cesar Covina from California, how do you prepare for a big rivalry game?
First of all, it's excitement. I get up for it, but I try to tell myself, don't live up to the hype. Going into those rivalry games, you know that the players are more amped up, the coach is more amped up, there's more media scrutiny in it. I try to tell myself, just stay calm. I try to talk to myself a lot because there's more cameras or whatever. But I'm long out here. I deserve to be in this game. Now let's show them why you're right. It's a big game, big time players, big time coaches. Let's show them we're 3 big time refs tonight.
Love it. Ryan 𝘕𝘬𝘨 from Detroit. What kind of habits do you use on the court to remain calm and focused during tense situations?
Well, I do a lot of meditation, or when I get to the hotel, I try to do a 5 or 10 minute, do some meditation, just to calm me down and give me a calming effect throughout the day, because it is going to be chaos. And I self-talk to myself a lot during the game. I'm my toughest critic, and I may beat myself up sometimes about a tough play, but I have to say, look, that possession's over. I've got to move on. If you continually beat yourself up about plays out there, you're going to miss the next play and the next play and the next play, which is what you don't want. I talk to myself constantly about, Roger, you need to re-rotate more. Roger, this game's getting too physical. Roger, this coach is not. Roger, you got to pump your partners up. Roger, the shot clock is messed up 3 times in the first half. All these things I'm trying to do is I'm talking to myself the whole. It's a game within a game.
My friend Fabian from Long Island, does your approach change if you are working a regular season matchup versus a playoff assignment?
Absolutely not. Whether it's an exhibition game or an NCAA tournament game, I never have an on-off switch, because like I said before, I ref like someone's watching me for the first time. If you treat every game like it's an NCAA win or lose, go home type game, or an NBA finals, if you treat every game like, because to those 2 teams playing, it's the biggest game in America. It's the most important game. I don't care if it's a rec ball on a Saturday morning. If they're keeping score on that scoreboard, that game means something to those players and those coaches and those fans and people follow that. So I treat every game the same. I don't change mechanics because this game's on ESPN or it's on ESPNU. I do everything exactly the same. My run's the same. My hustle's the same. My communication with coaches is the same. Everything I try to, that way I don't have to turn the on-off switch. Like, well, this game in this league, I'll just do. No, I don't have to. Every game, I feel like I'm fortunate and blessed to get to work. Someone is paying me to be out here. Someone believes in me. Someone thinks I can handle the game. Well, I want to prove them right. And what's helped me continue to build my schedule and stay around as long as I have is, I think, is my work ethic. Like, I try to work hard every night. If someone ever called me and said, you didn't work hard last night, that would crush me more than saying you missed a black charge play.
Right.
But it's a great question. Thanks for asking that one.
Anthony Hill has a curveball for you. If you could officiate another sport, what would it be?
Probably Major League Baseball, because I think those guys are so cool, so smooth. I like their style. The only problem about Major League Baseball, and I have a couple of Major League Baseball umpires that do that, is I kid them all the time. I couldn't wear a hat because it would mess my hair up. And I couldn't wear the mask. I'm not wearing a hat out there. And they said, well, if you're going to do Major League Baseball, you got to wear a hat. So I probably wouldn't be able to do it. So maybe tennis. I could sit up in the chair there with the umbrella in the water and just kind of not touch my hair. But that's why I never call shot clock violations. You're very rare. I don't want to touch it.
That's a great point.
So if we get a game, if we get a game this year, Paul, I'll blow the whistle and you stop it. So
no contact, right?
No contact. I'm not going to touch it. I'll touch it right for you. And that's the first time I've touched my hair since March.
What if someone else touches your hair?
They're ejected. Automatic ejection. No warnings. Got to go. Now, the players give me a hard time, too. I've had them say, ref, your hair never moves. Or ref, your hair is perfect. And I'll say, man, I use good hair, too. And a lot of times I'll do that in captain's meeting. I'll mess with them. I'll go, all right, guys, you know it's a big game. I'm using the Paul Mitchell tonight. I'm using the big time hair gel. And it just kind of breaks the ice, but another way just to calm them down. But yeah, fans get on me all the time, but if they're on me really hard, I'll like touch it a little bit, just mess with them. But it's just kind of my shtick now. People know me more about my hair than my officiating.
Well, your fellow official, Brian O'Connell, wants to know what kind of hair gel do you use?
Love my man. First of all, Brian O'Connell, I think, is one of the best wrestling country. Final Four ref by far. And we talk all the time. I actually spoke to him earlier today, but when I work with O'Connell, I definitely use the Paul Mitchell because I know it's going to be a big game. So I love Brian. Yeah, you could get him on one of these, you should do it. He's great.
Yeah, he is. He's very smooth to watch for sure. Philip Harris, have you ever had a moment when you were scared for you or your crew's safety?
Yes. mostly back in my younger days, like in the rec ball and the AAU, some of that stuff I dealt with coming up. I learned to ref games back then because the chaos that happens in those gyms on a Saturday, dealing with the parents running on the court and the coaches running on the court. But there were times, I remember a time working a rec ball game that a parent came up and put his hand in my chest and shoved me back, and I'm walking out to my car, it's dark, and I'm thinking, nobody cares about me. But the higher you go, in college basketball, there's usually some security there in Division I office security. But yeah, there have been times, I've gotten hate emails, I've gotten hate phone calls, I've gotten hate texts. I had one phone call one time after a game in a Division I league that the guy said, "Hey, you cost me tonight. I know where you live. There's a 6-foot hole waiting for you. I can't." Those are scary things. Those are scary things that people are just crazy about, and I just ignore them.
Well, let's keep it positive. Stuart Jones, do you see a change in behavior from players and coaches if no fans are in attendance? Give us your forecast on what games with no fans may look and sound like.
Yeah, first of all, I think it's going to be very interesting. I think coaches will be aware. I think more aware because sometimes they can say things or maybe profane. If a coach is saying something to me and it's just me and him talking, or he's right beside me, there's 20,000 people, no one can hear it, just him and I, it's one thing. I think they're going to be more aware now. If they yell across the court some profanity, you got no choice because every camera, every microphone in America picked it up. And I think it's going to be a learning process for them, just like it is for us. I work with some officials who cuss back to coaches. I'm not big on using profanity with coaches.
Can't do that either.
I don't think it's professional, but they're going to have to learn. Look, I can't yell at you on the free throw line, yell at the coach. Shut the effing up. I'm going to take care of this player. Shut that. But you're full of, you can't do that anymore because there's just too many. And the same with players. They're going to have to be more aware of when they get knocked to the floor instead of coming up using some language that maybe no one would have heard before. Maybe just now all the microphones are going to be there. They're going to be picking up on that. So it's going to be a learning curve for all of us. But I think that's the way it's going to be this year. I will be shocked if there are fans in the arenas. I'll be completely shocked. Hopefully it is. I'm okay with that. But if not, I just watched the TBT tournament, and that seemed to go off pretty good without fans, the way they had the borders around the court, the big curtain, so it didn't look like they were such a huge campus. You couldn't even tell. But as far as the microphones go and the coaches still going to, in the heat of the moment, coaches are still going to yell. And then that's going to put officials, I think, more in a box because the profanity is not going to be allowed. They're not going to allow a coach to yell at you 94 feet away, dropping F-bombs without addressing it.
No. So
it's going to be a learning for all of us. I think we're all going to have to get used to it. And I just hope we get to have a season and we can all get back out there and do what we love to do.
I think it's going to trend well for officials and improving sportsmanship because, like you said, you can't scream across the court in it like you were doing in a loud gym. You can't yell out a profanity because now all the players and refs are going to hear it. So let's keep this moving. Scott Still from Pennsylvania. What do you look for in up-and-coming officials?
Confidence. Somebody who looks the part. Somebody I can watch a guy at camp, believe it or not, most veteran, I can look at a guy in the first 5 minutes and tell if he has it. Like we all say, the it factor. There was an article in Referee Magazine 1 year about the it factor. Everybody's it factor is different, but I can watch a guy early on and see if he has it. And then the other thing I look for is how does he communicate? Like we've spent this 4 hours or so talking about communication. He may run like a deer. He may be a great-looking official, but when that big-time coach yells at him, he curls up like a turtle and gets in his shell. He's not going to make it. I want to see the guy who has the total package. Does he look like a rep? Is he in shape? Is he coachable? Does he listen? Does he want to get better? Does he ask for my advice? And second, and more importantly, how is he going to make it out here? If he's a jerk, he's not going to make it. As I said earlier, give me the good refs that are good guys over the jerks all the time. Same with newer refs coming in. You're coming in, be extremely humble. You may be the big dog in your high school association, but if you get hired in Division III, you're back to being the U2. You're the rookie. Or if you're Division III or Division II and you get hired in Division I league, you're back to being the rookie. Know your role, kind of is what I'm trying to say. Is learn what got you there. Don't come in with all this great ego and you're going to be the man. No, I don't. Nobody wants to work with that.
Lee Osbert from Texas. How do you mentally prepare for a long stretch of games?
Great question. When the season starts, I'm excited. I'm pumped up. I look at my calendar and go, wow, that's a long stretch there, but wow, that's going to be fun. That's going to be exciting. But as I said, any ref will tell you by February, March, you've been doing this now for 5 months. Everyone's tired. I try after games is I try to go to my quiet place. And people say, like, after games, I don't go back to the Marriott bar and hang out. I like to go back to my room where it's quiet. I've been around 15,000 people yelling and screaming all night. I like to go to quiet. I like to go listen to quiet music. I like to maybe get on and listen to a speaker talk about positive thinking or positive. I like very quiet time. I am an introvert. People don't believe it. They think, well, wow, you got to be an extrovert. You're in front of these people all night. But it's a funny story. One of the first years John Fogerty had the ACC job, he got up in the clinic in front of 70 other ACC refs and says, "Where's Roger Ayers?" And I thought, oh, this is big time. He's calling me out. He's going to have me say. So I stand up and he goes, "Hey guys, look at Roger right now. We all know his nickname is Houdini because he's going to disappear. When this game is over, when this meeting's over, he'll be gone." And that's how I officiate. I work hard for those 2 hours. With my partners, 2 hours. We may do a little something after the game, but when I can get back to my hotel and it's just me, that's when I'm at my happy place. That's when I can be honest with myself, take a deep breath and calm down, because I know tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. I got to get up and get on another plane and do it all over again. So I try to get as much rest as I can. You know, I don't try to, beat myself up too much, because I know tomorrow night, now if this game's behind me, tomorrow night's game is the biggest game I'm ever going to work. And then the next day you got to get up, call, and do it again.
Mm-hmm. Good question here from Adam Bergman. How do you deal differently with coaches who constantly question calls versus those that are more quiet and chill?
Yeah, great question. And the way I handle that is the coach who asks the questions all the time, if they're legitimate questions, I always answer them. But I always make a point to go down to the other coach and say, "Coach, anything you want to talk about?" Because if you look at coaches, like this year when you're on the court and you see one of your partners talking to a coach on the timeout, you can put money in the bank. Look down at the other end, and you're going to see either the head coach or the assistant coach is watching that whole conversation. A tip I would give refs is, if one of your partners is over there carrying on a 5-minute conversation with a coach and the other coach is standing there going, what's going on? I always go right to that coach. "Coach, what do you want to talk about? What's going on in your mind?" He said, "What's going on down there?" "I don't know, coach, but I'm giving you my ear. What do you want me to look for out here?" So there are some coaches in America who just coach. And I love working their games because they just let me work. There are other coaches that no matter what I do, just want to talk, just want to chirp, just want to. And you have to lend an ear to both of them. But what I've learned over the years is, don't give this guy who talks all the time all your attention. And don't. It's the same thing when you shake hands. If you go shake coach's hands and you spend 2 or 3 minutes shaking hands on the home team, when you get to, or with the visiting team, because you know them, and you get to the home team and you blow by the fish handshake, somebody's already got an antenna up, like, okay, Roger spent a half hour shaking the visitors' teams. He didn't shake our assistant coach's hands. Those are all things people look for. So, another great question.
The coach asks, has replay made it easier or harder for officials?
Depending on who you ask, for me personally, I think replays made it easier. I still ref the game like we have no replay. I ref the game, and then I know all the replay triggers that I can use to go to. But it's just like making a last-second shot. Anyone knows you can go to replay, but you got to make a decision. I ref it like there's no replay. And then if we need to go to replay, I, as an official, want to get the play right. If you at home, Paul, are having a cold beer watching on ESPN and knowing I missed the play or missed the out of bounds in the last 2 minutes or missed the last-second shot, everybody in America is seeing 10 different replays, and I don't have replay to go fix it and go look at it. That's a long night. I would rather go over and look at it. Now, the one thing I think we do a poor job of, we spend too much time over there. I heard college football was going to go to maybe a minute clock or something. You have to make a decision, because we can't continue to go over there and spend 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes looking at a replay on out of bounds, because it's like anything else. The more you look at something, the more you start second guessing yourself. It's like when you took a test in school. Usually your first gut instinct, your first answer was always right, but you would erase it and go, "I'm going to go with this one." And you'd be wrong. More times than not, I would say in 90 percentile, refs and the NBA level, even higher, we're pretty good at play calling and getting plays right in our gut instinct. But if you go look at a replay long enough, and I look at it and go, well, maybe 10 touched it. And then you come over and say, well, 10 touched it, but I think 50 touched it last. Well, then we have another guy come in. It takes too much time. I think we need to go make a decision and stick with it. And once we tell the coaches the decision's final, we got to play. But that replay there, I don't look at it as a crutch. I look at it as a way of get the game right, get it finished right. So when the coach goes back and looks at the replay and say, yeah, that bucket should have counted. Roger was right. The replay was right. I don't look at that as making us look bad or, we're human. We make mistakes every night. And to be able to go to a monitor and get the play right and go to the locker room and go, wow, guys, I'm glad we got that right. Where years ago you couldn't. You'd go in the locker room thinking, hoping the phone's not ringing. Right. So I'm all for replay.
Stephanie Evans from Summerfield, Oklahoma. How do you maintain your professionalism even when coaches are in your face? How do you remain calm?
I look at them sometimes like a child venting, like putting a little, like a little kid, like they lose their mind or whatever, and you got to be the adult. I remember when my daughter was a kid, went to Walmart one time, and she wanted this baby doll, and she was laying on the floor crying and screaming and all. I was like, no, we're leaving. Let's just go. You're out of control. It's like sometimes you got to deal with coaches like you deal with your children, like your kids. Like, coach, really, are you losing your mind? Coach, everybody in America is watching right now. Coach, all eyes are on you. You have a great job. You work at this great university. What are you doing? If officials did some of the antics that coaches did, just think back last year games you'd see or ref in, they're running down the sidelines, ripping their jacket off. They're trying to get their tie off and it's choking them. If they did that on the streets, people would be putting them on YouTube laughing at them, going, what's this clown doing? Well, if the officials did that, they think we have to be the calming effect that we got to be professionals 24/7. Officials can do nothing that brings attention to themselves. Coaches can do all that stuff they want, and they go, well, he's got a tough job, or she has a tough job. Well, so there's a lot of men and women who officiate that have tough jobs too, but we can't do those antics. Just got to rise above it. And a lot of times I will go, when they're doing all the venting, I will go, what are you doing? Are you finished? You put a show on for everybody. You got everybody looking at me. Now you've embarrassed me, and I put it back on them. If you're done now, I'm going to have to address this situation. I had a coach a few years ago run to the center jump circle. This is an early November game. In a 50-point game, he's winning, and he's yelling at a rookie in the ACC. And I just stood there and watched him. And when he turned around, I said, I'm not even going to blow the whistle on you. You know what I have to do. I said, are you finished? Look at you. You've embarrassed yourself. You're embarrassed the university. I said, you're being president or what? That's what you want. And he goes, oh, gosh, I didn't realize I was out here. I said, I didn't blow the whistle. I just turned to the table and said, technical foul on this. But a lot of times, if you'll try to bring them back down sometimes, but yeah, you're going to deal with unprofessional coaches all the time that all the things I've used on this podcast that maybe they don't respect or don't want to listen to, then you have to do.
I love some of your verbiage, especially talking about, coach, you're embarrassing your university. You're on national TV right now. So you say these kind of things to kind of wake them up in the moment. Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah,
let's face it, some of these are multimillionaires. Say, coach, you don't want to do this. If I throw you out, you're going to have to deal with the media. You're going to get suspended. Coach, what are you doing? Yeah. Get compose yourself, coach. Help me here. Try to talk them off that ledge. And sometimes if they want to go, they want to go, and then you have to deal with that. But a lot of times, say, coach, your AD is sitting at the score table. Your president's here, and it shocks them a little bit. Like, okay, I'm back in the moment.
Well, you're giving them great advice. Is what you're doing. You really are. Absolutely. Sometimes when you say something like you're embarrassing yourself, it could come off as offensive, which it's not. You're actually really trying to help them. You're breaking it down. What's up?
Yeah, let me say this, Paul. I've had a lot of coaches later in games go, hey, thanks for talking me off that ledge. Thanks for what you said to me. Thanks for calming me down. Thanks for talking to me. Thanks for getting me back in the box. Thanks for, I know we're going to lose a game tonight, but I won't forget how you treated me and my team. Those are all things, as I said, the next time you have them, they're coming in the game thinking, wow, this Paul guy, you can talk to him. And we lost a tough game on the road, but those other two guys might be jerks. I don't know them. I don't like them. But that guy right there, I can talk to him. It helps.
Okay, one more question from Eric Cruz. little similar to the previous one. What is one thing you've learned from Irae Coaches over the years?
What I've had to learn when I first started, great question here, is I took it personal. I took that they were irate at me. And a lot of times it wasn't so much me or my partners. They may have been upset at their players. They may have been upset at an official from the last game who had a tough play. Maybe they're upset at their AD. Maybe they're upset at their wife or their whatever it is. I used to take everything personal. Every time somebody yelled at me, I took it personal. What I've had to do now is say, you know what? Just let it go. It's not that. Just let it go off my shoulders and listen. If I've done anything better the last 10 years of my career that I did the first 10, I've learned to be a tremendous listener. And to me, listening is a big part of communication. You know, if it's just a one-way street, that's not communication. If that person's talking, I'm listening. I'm thinking while he's talking and venting, and maybe I rate my mind as I'm trying to think of some trigger words to calm him down. You know, talk him off that ledge. Like I'll even do things, and these are some crazy things that I may do. If he's finally coming back down to where he's I say, Coach, are you finished? Yeah, Roger, I'm done. I'll go, Ferragamo's or Gucci's? What are you wearing? And he'll go, oh, these are Gucci. Or I'll say, Coach, it's got to be custom-made suit, right? What? I say, I bet your name is in your suit, right? I say, I get mine at Steinmart. Yours are custom-made. To try to break the ice, little things. Or, Coach, I mean, a lot of coaches now wear 𝘁𝗀𝘳𝘳. I go, Coach, love those 𝘁𝗀𝘳𝘳s, man. They're just sweet. I got that same pair. Anything I can do to break the habit. This year, just for example, I worked Duke Carolina on Saturday night. The next day and Sunday, I had East Tennessee State in the Southern Conference semifinals. Their coach now is at Wake Forest. He's at Steve Forbes. He left right after a few weeks later and got the job at Wake. Little did I know. I really didn't even know him that well. I had him a few times this year. But one of the things I said to him was, his assistants were like, they were all wearing 𝘁𝗀𝘳𝘳s. And I made a joke late in the game, we're going to win. I said, Coach, congratulations, you're going to the finals. I said, now you guys can wear Gucci's. And he made the comment, yeah, I saw what you wore when you come. You had the Gucci. So it just kind of broke the ice. So little things you can do to kind of take their mind away. Or, Coach, that's a sweet tie, man. I wish I could have a handkerchief in my coat. Anything. All little tips, as we started probably an hour and a half ago, of reeling coaches in, all these things I can do to leave them with a good taste in their mouth when Roger Ayers is the official. Because they're probably not going to like you, which is fine. But if they, as I said this whole time, if they respect you and trust you, it will allow you to ref their games. And even when you miss a play, if they buy your act and really can talk to you, you got a chance. Because officiating is extreme. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And people, as I say, I'm a big admirer of a lot of people on Crown Refs. I listen to your podcast and some of the things those refs do, you know, the Joey Crawfords, the Scott Fosters, the 𝘍𝗿𝗄𝗀skis. I watch those guys. They're the pros. They're the experts. They make it look so easy. Well, I steal from those guys. So I'm still learning myself. So these tips and things I've shared with your listeners today are things I'm still trying to get better. I'm still trying to learn because I want to go back and work next season. I want to continue to work and get better. So anything I can get from Crown Refs or your podcast is tremendous value to me. I'm using it. So I'm still stealing from those veterans just like I was a rookie.
Absolutely. I want to take the time to really say thank you. I'm very grateful for all of the officials in Crown Refs, you know, who've been a part of this community for 2 years now that we've had it. Thank you to everyone that has reached out. This is episode 100. Took about 1.5 years to get here. We've had some great guests. I've tried to bring the world's best talent on, and I wanted to set up something special for episode 100, and Mr. Ayers, you definitely delivered. So thank you for all the wisdom. We talked about communication. We talked about coaches, players, officials. Is there anything else that you want to say to the officiating community that's listening?
Yeah, I want to leave you with this. And this is what I tell all ref groups that I go talk to. I always leave with this one little saying that I still live with today. There's one person on this video here that hopefully will get something out of this, but the one person in officiating that's going to help you the most and hurt you the most is the person you look at in the morning in the mirror every morning. If you get up every morning, look in that mirror and say, what can I do today to be a better official than I was? I think don't Don't let your career be based on, like I went to camps, and I went to a camp one time, put a number on my back, and the supervisor said, "You're not going to make it. You're not what I'm looking for." Well, I went back to my dorm room. I was standing with no air conditioning, looked in the mirror, and I could have been bitter and got ticked off and said, "This isn't for me." I looked in the mirror and go, "You know what? He's right. I got to get better." So everybody on this crown rep, said, tomorrow morning, look in the mirror and say, "What can I do to be a better rep? What can I do to get to that next step? This is what I want." Don't put your career or your future or your hopes and dreams on someone else and let them make that decision for you. You make it for yourself, whether that be, I need to get in shape. I got to get in the gym. I got to quit going to the buffets every night. I got to be a better rule book. I got to get in the rule book. I need to read the case book. I need to be listening more Crown Rep podcasts. What can I do today to get better? Whether that means we're in the off season now, maybe just get on your iPad and look at tape from last year, but be your toughest critic, but look in that mirror and say, okay, this is the person who's going to help me the most today. And I'm going to make it in officiating because of that person I'm looking at right there. If I don't, that's the person right there that's going to stop me. But nobody can stop me. I'm going to make it. And Supervisor A says I'm not good enough, well, I'm going to be. So, I'd like to leave you with that, and I wish you all a tremendous success. And one day I'll get to work with a lot of you, and all these tricks I've used, I'll stand back and watch you use them. So, thanks
a lot,
Harry.
Appreciate it.
It only took you to 100 to get to me, so I'm in the top 100. I'll take it.
Thanks for listening to the Crown Reps Podcast. Serve the game.